Surfing is almost mystical in nature. When you talk to people who surf, they talk about it in a way that implies a deeper meaning, a way of life. We set out on our journey to explore the thing that makes surfing possible, the surfboard. To do this, we drove down the coast of California, where tucked away in the green mountains lay sparkling water, virgin beaches, and the very people we sought to interview. This led us to the small surfer town of Pacifica. Here, we caught up with 3 surfers just finishing their session. We asked them each a simple question. Describe your surfboard.
Hello, my name is Michael Dansky, and I'm an East Coast surfer. So you have 2 types of boards here. You got a shortboard thruster setup and a single fin pintail. That's an old school board for riding really clean, fun waves. You walk up to the nose, hang 10, classic surfing moves. This is more of a performance shortboard. It has a fishtail, 3 fins that are more flexible, so you can go up and do crazy, gnarly turns. Throw buckets, it's kind of sick. So if you're a beginner, you want to start out with something like this. Something like this has more rocker to it, and it really can pitch on big days. If you don't know what a rocker is, it's the curvature of a board. And it goes like that, yep. See what I mean? How it has a rocker to it. And I don't know, the fishtail gives it more performance, and that's pretty much all I got right now.
So I'm Lee LaBelle. I'm from a little town called Loomis, Washington. Eastern Washington. I ride a Lost Industries board, a brand. It's a 6.0, 18.75 wide and 12 inches thick. I have a Hawaiian board back home. That's why I started on it. I was kind of riding that. It was a lot of fun. I wanted to try a shortboard, and this thing is like really thin, so it's fun. It's just like ride up on those waves and, you know, cars, little buckets everywhere. It's pretty fun. I'm still learning, but it's a lot of fun.
My name's Ryan Eads. I've been surfing here for about a year now. I have about 6'8" board, airbrushed, a little bit wider. We got the quad fins. The design of this surfboard is extremely wide. A little bit difficult to paddle out on. It's about 3 inches thick. So it's a pretty good stable board. It's pretty wide, pretty small. Quad fins kind of give it a lot of turn, a lot of control, so a little bit of speed.
My name is Paul Souls. I'm a 2nd grade teacher in Half Moon Bay. Yeah, I made this one myself. The outline's based on kind of a 70s style with modern fin setup. And it's designed the bottom to have double concave so water flows through the fins better. These boards used to have 1 single fin, but everybody knows that design sucks, so I put 4. It's just an artistic thing they started doing in the 60s, but they put like essentially food coloring in the fiberglass resin and spread it around. So it's kind of a classic, every board's unique kind of a thing. So when you make your own, you gotta have a cool paint job on it. You learn a lot about surfing and surfing history when you design your own board. You design specific things, like I made it this wide for a certain reason and this long for a certain reason in a certain place. But yeah, mostly just fun. It's a fun project.
Our conversations made one thing clear. Each surfer knew their board very well. They could easily recount all the minor details that go into making their board suit their style. Each surfboard was chosen to complement each surfer's abilities and compensate for their shortcomings. Length, thickness, material, fin configuration, and shape all provide different benefits to different people. And the color scheme? Those just provide a personal touch.
Still if I'm not mentioning, give it to the poor. Telling everybody it don't matter.
Our next stop on our journey was Half Moon Bay, California, a town famous for its 60-foot waves. We decided this would be the perfect place to learn more about the history behind the design of surfboards. To do this, we consulted with a surfboard expert at Half Moon Bay Board Shop, Jeremy.
In the beginning, boards were made out of wood. This was prior to the advent of the foam and fiberglass board. This particular board is made out of balsa wood. Prior to that, the boards were made of a very heavy wood called koa wood that is found in Hawaii. Those were the original surfboards. They didn't have fins. They were just a flat plank of wood that people would ride. As time progressed, this board is most likely from the early 1950s. The fin was added to it, and people paid a little bit more attention to hull design as influenced by boats. So they were starting to ride more and more challenging waves and riding and just starting to bridge the gap between riding a wave straight and performance on a board. So if you transition forward in time, you have a foam. This is an older foam fiberglass board. So this was made with polyester resin and fiberglass over foam. This really revolutionized surfing because the board became a lot lighter, it was just as durable, and you could change things on the board as you went along. So say you wanted to modify the board, it wasn't very difficult for you to strip off a little bit of fiberglass, cut out some foam, and change the fin around. And this came around the late to early 60s. People started making them. They're very, very popular by the late 60s to early 70s. As you fast forward into the modern era of surfing, obviously we went over the modern shortboard. This is also a fiberglass and polyester resin board. As you can see, the design has changed, but not much has really changed in the construction of the board. As the boards have transitioned to becoming more composite designs with epoxies, you can do a lot more fun things with the board because you're not limited to what the human can do. You can do what a computer or a CAD design can do in the shapes of the board. So this board has an interesting deck design where it's a raised deck. It's got a kicktail like a skateboard because in a lot of areas the surf may not be good for riding long waves. It can be much more influenced by skateboarding, and you have a lot more extreme and radical tricks without having to link the tricks together in one long wave.
Surfboards have evolved from big hunks of wood to fully customizable computer-designed performance pieces. In addition, boards have also gotten shorter and developed more aggressive edges to allow the rider more control over the waves. Our conversations with the surfers and Jeremy instilled in us a sense there is more than meets the eye when it comes to surfboards. Every cut, shape, and edge serves a purpose. Ultimately, this customization allows the surfer to express themselves in the water, the very reason they surf. So me and Kosh had always talked about filming a video, and I'm an engineer and he's kind of a CS guy, so we've always been too busy to do it. And when we both found out we're in this class, we're like, we're doing a video. This is our chance. We've been looking forward to this. We have all the camera equipment, we got the editing software, and this is it. And I guess our big problem was, what are we going to do? And we want to do something cool that was kind of fun and modern and something that hadn't been done. And then one day I'm talking to my stepdad. I'm from Half Moon Bay, California, and he was telling me about the surf. He's like, oh, the waves are huge today. I finally surfed. I hadn't surfed in a while. And I hung up the phone, ran over to Kosh's room, and was like, Kosh, we're doing this. Like, this is going to be awesome. Kosh was a little skeptical, but
I'm originally from Iowa, and there's obviously there's no surf culture there. We have tubing on the river, but that's basically it for water sports. So I knew nothing about the whole appeal of surfing to Californians, really. So I wasn't too familiar with the object either, and I was just skeptical of it really.
You know, and I knew how this could come out. As soon as I had the idea in mind, I'm like, I had plans, and I just kept hammering Kosh. And Kosh was kind of nice to me. He was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea, but let's keep thinking." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." But every day I was at lunch, "Hey, Kosh, surfboard," and I kind of just kept wearing them, and eventually I showed him a clip of Mavericks, which are these 60-foot waves in Half Moon Bay.
Yeah, that was the thing that changed my mind completely. So Mavericks, like Lucas said, is so it's this competition that goes on in Half Moon Bay every year, and you just get people out on the ocean riding these 60-foot waves, and these waves are crashing into rocks, and then you have maybe 100 people out in the ocean, all of them taking their turns, and it's absolutely insane how dangerous it is, and what these people are doing on the ocean, and that's all made possible by the surfboard. So that kind of was the trigger for me that said that, okay, maybe this project is worth doing, or maybe it is interesting to find out if there's more behind the surfboard. So the week before Thanksgiving break, Lucas's stepdad actually called him and told him about a competition, a surfing competition going on in Pacifica. And so, we thought it was the perfect opportunity, so we jumped at a chance. We said, okay, this is the weekend we're going. Let's get all the filming equipment and head down Pacifica. We'll see what surfing's all about, what these surfers have to say, and we'll find out what actually goes on with these surfing competitions.
So obviously we went to Pacifica and filmed some users, surfers that were actually using their surfboard, and we thought about it and we're like, this is great, but we need a little bit more credible of a source. Someone who actually is more into the design and what performance needs, and even sales. And so I asked my stepdad, and I was like, "Hey, Darren, do you know anyone who might be able to help us?" And fortunately, he referred me to Jeremy at the Half Moon Bay Board Shop. And Jeremy had 20 plus years experience with surfboards. He had shaped surfboards at a time. He sold them. He was just working part-time at the board shop, and we're like, this is a great opportunity. This guy's kind of a surf lifer. And so we went there and interviewed him and asked him a billion questions about surfing and everything to do with it, and kind of merged the user and the design guy, and someone who kind of had shaped and really influenced it more deeply than the user.
So one thing I found that was quite interesting, so I did some research on the history of surfboards and kind of all the design decisions that have gone into them over the decades, and you see a trend where you start out with the boards in the 50s, and there's these big hunks of wood that kind of just float. They're almost like boats, really. And then going on into the 60s, you see a lot of the influence of the 60s culture with the floral designs and patterns going into the boards, and they get smaller at that point too. And then the 70s and 80s that accelerates that whole trend where you have these smaller boards and getting smaller and smaller, lighter. There's stuff to be made of fiberglass as opposed to wood. You get these companies putting their logos. You get graphic design as opposed to hand-painted designs. And then as you go into the 90s, again, that trend continues even further, where now instead of just a sharper board, you have fins on the bottom. You have grippy surfaces that otherwise were not possible. Boards stop being made of fiberglass, really, and start being made more of plastic compounds. And at the same time, they also stop being made by people, and they start being made by machines and computers with CAD and computer-aided design.
And Kosh is kind of talking about how they've shifted over the years, and I think that shift is almost reflective of a societal shift. As with all these new advancements in technology, our culture's kind of evolved to be more instant gratification. I instantly want to know what the score of the game was. I instantly want to stream a movie. I instantly want a new song. And back in even the 80s,
If I wanted a new song, I had to get in my car or drive to the CD store, Virgin America that isn't even in business anymore, buy the whole CD, come back, find which song it is, and play the song. And nowadays, I just go on iTunes, I buy the song, and I think surfing's kind of been reflective of that too. Surfing's not something you can control. The waves are going to do what the waves are going to do. That's a swell thing, that's a wind thing, that's a tide thing. But with surfboards and the change in design, they've adopted almost the skateboard tail, which is kind of that raised tail at the end, with more rocker, as one of the surfers had told us. And that rocker almost allows the surfer to kind of push and like almost pump himself through a wave, as kind of like someone who's swinging. They push out their legs, and that's kind of what the surfer does with his feet and the tail of the surfboard. He kind of pushes it and pumps it so he can surf something that wouldn't be surfable 40, 50 years ago. And I think that's just kind of indicative of how surfing has adopted the societal change and societal trend of instant gratification. I want to instantly control it, instantly influence it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the whole technological change in surfboards actually has worked for the better, just from looking at our interviews. One would think that the sport, the fact that it's more, that you have more options and the computer-aided design is now a factor, would kind of be a detriment to the overall passion that goes into the sport, but it's quite the opposite. When we talk to all these surfers, we ask a simple question, really, like, what makes your board unique, or what about your board made you choose it? And really, every single person we interviewed talked for at least 6 minutes, non-stop about their board. And we had to cut the film down to, or we had to cut the segment down to 2 minutes per surfer. And that just shows how passionate these people are about their surfboards and how much thought they put into every single design decision, whether it's the thickness, the weight, the color, the number of fins. Everything is customized for the surfer. And it shows how the sport has evolved, really.
And to kind of wrap it up, it just kind of shows a passion for the surfboard. I think there's definitely a passion for surfing, but with surfing, there's an equal passion for the surfboard that allows people to surf. It allows people to get everything that they get out of surfing. And I think if the surfboard hadn't evolved, I'm not sure there would be quite as much passion about surfing.